Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview covering EPL Season 19. For this occasion, I have here with me Dexter, the IGL of FlyQuest, who, of course, are going to be one of the teams that will be taking part in said competition. So, Dexter, I really appreciate you taking the time, like I said before the start of the recording. And yeah, a new team for you, another EPL. I mean, just being a part of this team, FlyQuest, donning new colors, what's the feeling like for you?
Feels really nice. It's a bit different to joining other teams in the past because it's just an actual full Australian team, so it means a little bit more to me than the other teams.
Yeah, and the announcement for this team was made shortly before the start of Chengdu and just before you guys were taking part in that kind of thing. And yeah, it's an incredible thing, just not just because of the fact that, of course, as you said, full Aussie team once again being represented by an org, but also the fact that it's FlyQuest, an org that is has been working in the impact scene and up to this point, but now decided to go all in on the men's side of things. So, I mean, just covering you guys joining FlyQuest. I mean, how did that even come about? How were the initial conversations in that front?
Pretty good. Just had lots of conversations with Papa Smithy, the president of FlyQuest, and try to get to know him, and then the team's culture or the org's culture and all that, as well as we had other talks with other orgs as well. But in the end, FlyQuest definitely aligned closely to what we believe in, and kind of we see a lot of good support that they can give us and the structure and everything like that. So yeah, that's just how it basically went around.
Talk to me about what those kind of culture and culture values was that kind of now want you to just join them and just be like the pioneering team for this org.
Essentially, it's just being able to represent the community was a big one. Papa Smithy is Australian as well, so that was a nice thing to have, and also being able to kind of just do things our way. A lot of orgs in the past will try to like have a lot of hands in a lot of different ways of how a team operates and whatnot, and it's not too healthy. And yeah, they just also let us and support us to play in Europe a lot more than what Greyhound could have back then. And yeah, it's much nicer to just be able to compete and among other things that they offer us.
Yeah, and now going over to just the team's performance, in Chengdu and also, not making the major RMR. It's a pretty back and forth thing, looking at the progression of this team, by that front. How do you kind of look back on the team's performance, from not making RMR to then adjusting for Chengdu and then performing in Chengdu and then, moving on from that to now in Malta in EPL?
It's really good growth. Not making the RMR, I mean, not making the major was quite difficult, but at the same time, we only had 1.5 months practice in only Australia compared to all these other Asian teams were able to boot camp in Europe at the time, and we didn't really have that same opportunity. So we just didn't prepare as much in those sections that we could have. And then going into Chengdu was much nicer. We had a lot more time to reevaluate things. I pretty much deleted scrapbook and redone things and try to make it my own way properly. And yeah, it's definitely showed off.
Yeah, and that said, looking back over to just now yourself, your individual career, individual progression. It's been quite a long time since you last returned to, being in OS and just being in a full Australian team. You got to go back a few years, more than a handful, I believe, around 2019. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but still, getting back to that scene, getting back to just Oceania and just having to work with a full Oceanic team. How do you kind of look at yourself, comparing yourself from when you were last a part of that kind of scene and nowadays? What was the one thing that kind of changed the most for you?
I think it's kind of being constructive as much as possible. That's the biggest change. when I first joined Mouse, I wasn't really constructive to how people should grow that much because everyone on that team originally was already really, really good. So coming into that team as an Australian player was a bit jarring in a way. But coming into this team, I've learned quite a lot and trying to be really constructive and make sure people are on the same page as much as possible. Constantly, um, yeah, evaluating situations as best as possible for each of us, and yeah, feels nice.
What do you think was the biggest change that you had to do, like in your game, just to kind of help support your fellow teammates in the squad? Compared to before. Focusing on the in-game stuff now.
The biggest thing would definitely be actually my positions on maps. In Fnatic, I was definitely forced into really bad positions, um, where I wouldn't have zero info in terms of everything. Just because I just wanted to make everyone else on that team comfortable. But in the long run, I think that was probably the worst idea possible because I had no idea of impact and no control of the map of what was going on. And compared to this team, I'm in a lot more impact positions where I get a lot of information for the team and then can call out and understand what the opponent is doing a lot more. So that's probably the biggest tactical thing I would have to say.
And I guess that sense would be like most reflected in just the team's revamped, strat book. Because as you said, you guys deleted the strat book and just starting over, and yeah, just being more focusing on that up front, more than any other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, and yeah, like you mentioned, of course, Fnatic, and yeah, it's a time that, of course, a difficult time, going from Mouse to Fnatic and then going over to Greyhound. And yeah, looking at Fnatic though, it was there where you last appeared in your previous EPO back in season 18, roughly around 7 months ago. You kind of already touched upon, difficulties and just the positioning for you on that team. But yeah, uh if there's one thing that you see that kind of changed the most for you, be it in outside of the game, what would that be and why?
Just probably general happiness, right? Being in Australia has benefits of being around family and having your own schedule and whatnot. And that's definitely an overlooked thing compared to everyone in Europe who are able to have a benefit of being at home and have family and uh, girlfriend, pets, animals. Like those are the things that a lot of people don't really think about when international players come to you. It's a lot of things like yeah, just like those mental things, and I think that's just a huge difference.
Yeah, and in doing so, you guys been able to just qualify for many events, outside of just Chengdu, getting into Dallas, getting there, which I hopefully to see you there in person sometime in the future. Besides that point, what do you kind of see the potential of this team, going down the line, getting experience, additional experience in EPL, building off of the momentum from Chengdu, and just kind of everything else after that.
Yeah, or experience is always nice. But I think I've been to the point where I've gotten a lot of experience already. So I'm giving us a little period of time where I want to make sure that we're using FlyQuest resource as best as possible to kind of perform, meaning bootcamp and understand meta and everything in Europe. Because we haven't really gone into everything yet, like got like performance coach and whatnot at all, which we'll be doing in the future. But yeah, once we get settled into all those little aspects of the game and then um, whatnot, I kind of would expect us to do like better like runs and playoff runs at some point in the future because right now CS2 is still fluctuating so much with how the meta is evolving and everything, and that's why some teams are winning and sometimes they're crashing out last place of the next event. So it's important for us to kind of capitalize on that.
Yeah, of course, of course. And now I'm gonna ask one more question before I wrap it up because we're low on time right now. But similar to the previous question I asked, but more so just focusing on this event, expectations, for this team and also for yourself, making playoffs. Is that the goal, the main goal for you guys, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say playoffs is always nice, but the way I kind of see things is making sure that we're fighting in for each game that we're playing. Um, there's a difference between just losing and giving up and going into the next game and going into the games with a winning mentality and still losing. So making sure that our mentality is the right place to kind of compete with these teams. Because in Chengdu we were fighting, we were making risky moves and taking space where we need to, and it's important for us to be consistently doing that. So it's all part of the mental growth of the team.
And hopefully this growth continues well in advance, both during, before, and now sometime after EPO. So Dexter, thank you so much for taking the time during this interview. Really appreciate it one more time. And that said, best of luck goes to you for this EPO.
Thank you, Pedro.